So good afternoon, everybody. I will take the liberty of starting maybe 2 minutes earlier. And before we start, I would like to welcome all the participants that are here. And I really appreciate that even in these difficult times, we have such a good attendance in our initial clinic today. Actually, it is a very, very important session. That is why we have kept it in between the COVID confusion and the COVID lockout. Because as soon as a lockout is opened, we expect our new drug, dolutegravir, which would form a backbone even of our first line, to come to our ART centers. So by the time the drug comes, I think we as ART center doctors and staff should be trained in how to use it. It is a category of drug integrase inhibitor which we have only used in third line till now. We have not even used it in the second line as of now. So this was actually a very, very important session. That is why we did it in between all of this issue. And before we begin, I would just hope and pray that all my colleagues, all my healthcare workers are safe and they are taking care of themselves. They are taking precautions. You all have to understand that you all are very, very important, not only for your families, but also for the country. So please be very careful and take very good care of yourself while you continue to take care of patients. So with these few introductory remarks, I think now it's 2 o'clock. Let me introduce my team. Today we are not in one place, but we are at our own homes/offices and doing the session from our respective homes and offices. But as usual, I am Dr. Upasana. I will be moderating this session. Then there is Dr. Vandana Dabla from Chair India and Ajit from Chair India. Plus, we also have Mr. Gaurav Rewadi from Echo India, who would be coordinating this session from the IT side. And our specialist today is Dr. Reshu Agarwal, who is a senior public health specialist and is currently working with CDC India. So with these few words, I would like to begin the session. And the first thing in the session would be a poll of attendance. Can I request Ajit or Vandana to please pull up the poll of attendance?
All are requested to do the poll. Only 30 seconds left.
Please poll kijiye. Why dolutegravir is being adopted under the national program? Please select the correct option. Number 1, it supports rapid viral suppression than efavirenz. Number 2, it has shown fewer toxicities and side effects. Number 3, it has a high genetic barrier to resistance. And number 4, all of the above. 5 seconds to give an answer to question number 1. Question 2. What is the correct dosage of dolutegravir in HIV/TB co-infected patients on rifampicin-based TB treatment? Number 1, same dosage, which is 50 milligram, as is in the case without TB. 100 milligram once daily, 50 milligram twice daily. Or dolutegravir should not be prescribed with rifampicin-based TB treatment. Another 5 seconds to answer this question, please. We still have 7 people who need to answer the question. So the poll is done. Now with this, can I please request Dr. Reshu Agarwal, who is a public health specialist, as we introduced, and I think many of you would be familiar with her, to give a talk to us on introduction to dolutegravir-based regimens and phase 1 transition plan. Over to Dr. Reshu Agarwal, please.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dr. Upasana. Thank you everyone for joining in. I know you people are really busy with your COVID duties right now. Most of you have been allocated some sort of COVID duties in your hospitals, and even with your daily work, you are really finding it difficult to cope up these days. So thanks so much for joining in this session. And since almost 15 days back, NACO has already rolled out DTG. So this is a very appropriate time to discuss about the DTG transition plan. और मैं कोशिश करूंगी क्योंकि आई कैन सी लाइक मेनी ऑफ द पार्टिसिपेंट्स आर फ्रॉम हिंदी स्पीकिंग स्टेट्स आल्सो, तो मैं हिंदी और इंग्लिश दोनों में बात करने की कोशिश करूंगी। अगर आपके कोई भी सवाल है इसके बीच में तो आप चैट बॉक्स में पोस्ट कर सकते हैं, नहीं तो हम क्वेश्चंस को बाद में लेंगे। और मैं अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन को थोड़ा छोटा रखने की कोशिश करूंगी जिससे कि हम लोग बाद में आपके जो भी सवाल हैं वो आप देख सकें, क्योंकि ये प्रेजेंटेशन आप हो सकता है बाकी NDLS RDLS में भी इसके बारे में आप सुन चुके होंगे, लेकिन हम आज का सेशन जो है ये चाहेंगे कि हम इसको और ज्यादा इंटरैक्टिव बना सकें। और डॉक्टर सुधीर भी हैं, डॉक्टर उपासना है, तो हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे कि आपके जितने भी सवाल हैं वो हम ले सकें और उनके आपको जवाब दे सकें। तो इस प्रेजेंटेशन में हम बात करेंगे कि NACO जो है नेशनल एड्स कंट्रोल प्रोग्राम DTG जो इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहा है वो क्यों इंट्रोड्यूस कर रहा है प्रोग्राम में, DTG के बारे में, उसकी फार्माकोलॉजी के बारे में बात करेंगे। फिर हम बात करेंगे कि क्या प्लान है कि किस तरीके से DTG इंट्रोड्यूस होगा, कहाँ DTG dolutegravir based regimen would be used in the national program. Then we will also discuss about the special situations like HIV TB co-infection or the women in reproductive age group. इसके बारे में maybe you might have heard कि like you have to be like the counseling process has to be like very optimal to give the messages have to be like very optimal when you talk to women of childbearing age. So we will be talking about those messages, that how you should be counseling these patients. We will also discuss about ART in first line, second line, third line, and PEP. And now, because NACO has issued the office order for the phase 1 transition, because this transition in the NACO program is happening in different phases. तो सब कुछ अभी एक साथ नहीं होगा, धीरे धीरे करके the regimen will be brought into the program, and some of the existing regimens would be phased out of the program, but everything will not happen right now. It will take time. और अभी जो NACO ने order दिया है, that is for phase 1 transition. So we will discuss what is this phase 1 transition.
Reshu, I'm sorry to interrupt. I think today, for some reason, we have equal number of participants from the southern part of India as we have from the northern part of India. So okay. I know it's a tough job for you, but I think you'll have to do it in both English and Hindi somehow.
Sure.
So like, things that you cover in Hindi, they need to be said in English because some people from the southern part of India might not understand.
Okay.
Anyways,
I will be repeating all these things in my in the subsequent slides.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much.
Right? So now we will discuss why dolutegravir is being introduced in the program. Why are we bringing it in our Indian program? And it was a long-awaited drug for our program. Like when are we introducing? People were asking this. So why we are bringing it? It's basically it helps in rapid viral load suppression. Because if we compare with existing regimen, especially with efavirenz, on an average, the viral load suppression with efavirenz based regimen happens in 12 weeks. But with DTG based regimen, on an average, the viral load suppression happens in 4 weeks. And we will discuss this in more detail. Then it has fewer toxicities or side effects, and it is very well tolerated by patients. Though the chances of discontinuation of the treatment and people stopping the ART because of the side effects are very less with this regimen. This is obviously a more potent regimen because it has a very high genetic barrier. इसका genetic barrier बहुत ज़्यादा है और chances of patients failing on DTG based regimen are comparatively low because it has a high genetic barrier. This also again we will discuss in details. Then it also has minimal drug interactions. क्योंकि जब हम बात करते हैं बहुत सारे patients को we give other drugs also. They are on TB treatment. They are on if they are having any other comorbidity, they would be treated for that. So with this drug, the drug-drug interactions of DTG with other drugs are very minimal, and which can be we can find ways to give DTG in most of the conditions. Then it is also effective against HIV too. So since we can use it for all our populations now, so it helps in simplification or drug optimization, ARV optimization, because then if we talk about the public health approach, our approach becomes very easy, that every patient is eligible for DTG. We don't have to have different regimen for different kind of subpopulations, and then we have to maintain all those stocks, procurements and everything. So it simplifies all the processes from top to bottom, right? तो ये क्योंकि इसका बेसिकली हम सारे पेशेंट्स में इसको यूज कर सकते हैं, इसलिए हम लोग इसको बोलते हैं ड्रग ऑप्टिमाइजेशन करना या सिंप्लीफिकेशन करना, क्योंकि ये एक सिंप्लीफाइड रेजिमेंट होगी जो हम सारे पेशेंट्स में यूज कर सकते हैं, एंड इट कैन बी हार्मोनाइज्ड अक्रॉस ऑल पेशेंट पॉपुलेशंस. जो हमने अभी बात की थी कि इट हेल्प्स इन रैपिड वायरल लोड सप्रेशन, तो ये जो स्टडीज है सिंगल स्टडी किया गया था जिसमें ये पता लगा था कि इफ यू डू अ वायरल लोड एट 48 वीक्स, so with DTG based regimen 88% of the patients were suppressed, but with efavirenz based regimen 81% were suppressed. Similarly, if you do viral load at 96 weeks, 80% of the patients on DTG based regimen were suppressed at 96 weeks. And I already told you, you can see in this graph here that on an average, like in most of the patients, the viral load suppression would happen within 4 weeks. However, with efavirenz based regimen, it takes nearly 8 weeks. And this is what I like, this gray line is showing how the viral load is at different weeks with DTG based regimen, and it is comparatively low with efavirenz based regimen, which you can see in the yellow line. So that's why it is like comparatively it has a better or a superior efficacy as compared to efavirenz based regimen. Then DTG is well tolerated. I already told you कि इसका जो side effects हैं or the adverse events associated with DTG are comparatively low, and people tolerate it better. They don't discontinue the treatment. So the studies, again, the single study showed that the rate of discontinuation was only 2% with DTG based regimen vis-a-vis with efavirenz based regimen at 48 weeks, and 3% vis-a-vis 11% at 96 weeks. So even when patients get comparatively older on the regimen, even at 96 weeks, the side effects are comparatively low. There are some side effects, which is like rash, which was compared with efavirenz. So rash with DTG is almost 2%. Compared with efavirenz, which is 13%, and even the other neuropsychiatric events, including dizziness, with efavirenz, they could be around 35%, but with DTG based regimen, they are 5%. The only issue which was found with in terms of the side effects or adverse events was insomnia, and insomnia is reported to be higher with DTG based regimen. Now coming to high genetic barrier to resistance. So most of the studies have shown that after 48 weeks or 96 weeks on treatment with DTG based regimen, there was no drug resistance to integrase inhibitor based regimen or to NRTI. And this was this has been proved in various studies, single studies, spring study, flamingo study, and sailing study, and they have compared different regimen. The single study compared it with efavirenz, the flamingo study compared with raltegravir, and then the sailing study compared the experienced patient, the patients who were already on treatment. In them, the comparison was done between raltegravir and DTG, and it was found that with DTG, the resistance rates were 1% vis-a-vis with the raltegravir in such patients, the resistance rate were 5% at 48 weeks. So this graph shows how the different drugs which are used for the treatment of HIV, how are they placed in terms of their potency? Potency means their effectiveness or their genetic, their efficacy, and in terms of their barrier to resistance. And if you see, the x-axis shows, the drugs which are on the right side of the x-axis, that means they are more potent. And the drugs who are on the top, on the y-axis, these drugs are comparatively having a higher resistance to barrier. And if you see DTG, it qualifies for both the things. So it means it has a high potency, and it as well as it has a high barrier to resistance. And that's why we are introducing this drug in the national program. Now I will talk about the use of DTG in women with childbearing potential. And you might have heard a lot of studies and papers have been published about this, and you might have already heard about it. So the main or the big study which was done in Botswana, which was called SIPAMO study. And in this study, when an earlier analysis was done in 2018, 4 neural tube defects were found in 426 women who were taking DTG at the time of conception. And this meant that the likeliness or the incidence of neural tube defect in these women was nearly 0.9%. But then this study was continued and the data was updated in 2019. And we did not see much increase in the number of neural tube defects in the babies who were born to the women who were taking DTG at the time of conception. And that's why this incidence actually reduced to 0.3%. That means there was only one increase. So that means 5 out of 1683 exposures. But even then, though the incidence has come down, even then this is statistically significant. And if we compare with efavirenz based regimen, it is comparatively high. So with efavirenz, the likeliness of neural tube defects is around 0.05. And the current data with DTG shows that it is around 0.3%. And 0.3% means that 3 in 1,000. So if there are 1,000 women of childbearing potential who become pregnant while taking DTG, and if so 3 babies born to these kind of women might have neural tube defects. But this data is still being studied, and more evidence is being collected around this, and we await for more results on these studies. So this is something which is, these are still early results, and we cannot for sure say that this kind of risk, I mean, the quantum of the risk is this much or not. It could be lesser than this also. But since whatever data is available for now, we will have to go by that data. And the current data says the likeliness is 0.3%. And it is safe to start DTG-based regimen in pregnant women beyond first trimester because it causes the neural tube defects, and usually the neural tube will close within 28 days of pregnancy. And that's the time before even most of the women would not even know about the pregnancy. So usually the defect is done at the time of conception. So if the women are reporting after completion of the first trimester, it is safe to put them on DTG-based regimen. Now we will discuss how WHO has positioned itself on the use of DTG-based regimen. So I think the premise on which they had at the discussion was because in the earlier slides we discussed the kind of benefits which DTG has. So we know that DTG is comparatively superior to other ARVs which are currently available. It helps in suppressing the viral load very quickly. It helps in maintaining the maternal health and decreasing the maternal deaths. It also, because it leads to viral load suppression very quickly, and we know from U=U studies that if somebody is undetectable, he or she is likely to be untransmittable. So it leads to fewer sexual transmissions also. So there are obviously a lot of advantages with DTG, and that's why WHO thought that we should not blanketly have exclusion for women of childbearing potential. If something is good, women should not be denied of those benefits of DTG. That's why WHO recommends that we should give an informed choice to the women, explain all the benefits as well as risk of DTG to women, and then let her decide whatever she wants to. But at the same time, I would want to tell you, because you are healthcare professionals and people would be asking you, WHO has also done a lot of modeling studies, and which shows that overall, in an average, the benefits of DTG in childbearing women are comparatively, they would outweigh the risk. So that's something, because I mean, we should know, and the data is still evolving. So the benefits are comparatively higher, and the risk may be like comparatively lesser than what we know currently. So I think when you do the counseling of your patients, that's very important thing that you should remember. And the women should be given an informed choice by explaining all the benefits as well as risks about DTG-based regimen. So, and if the women, they choose to be on DTG, they should be linked to some contraceptive or family planning services, and they should be on effective contraception. But even if they are not on effective contraception, but if they have been fully informed about the risk and benefits of DTG, and if they still want to be started on DTG-based regimen, WHO says that they can be started on DTG-based regimen. But if they don't choose to be on DTG-based regimen, then we can explore other options for them. They could be on efavirenz-based regimen, right? And if a woman is identified to be pregnant after first trimester, then there is no need to change the regimen of these patients, and they can be continued on DTG-based regimen. Now we will talk about the, do you have any questions as of now, or should we move to the next section?
So any questions from the house? Is this clear? You want anything repeated? If anybody has any question, please unmute yourself. Any hands? No? Should we proceed?
No?
Yeah, please, Dr. Reshu, proceed.
Thank you. Right. So now we will discuss about the adverse effects or side effects of DTG. So though I earlier said that it is very well tolerated, the side effects are very minimal, but obviously any drug would have some side effects, and the common side effects of DTG are insomnia, headache, dizziness, tiredness, allergic reactions, and then of late weight gain has also been reported. But most of these side effects are very mild, and most of the times they are very self-limiting. Usually they will come and they will get subsided on their own, and most of the time nothing would be required. But obviously, I mean, if a patient is reporting for the side effects, a grading has to be done. That is very important. And especially with weight gain, usually, like, no, I mean, it's a positive sign in our PLHIV, especially if they come with a very low BMI in the initial stages. So it's a positive sign. But if it is a, like, you know, even in long term, if they are gaining weight, and if it is something which is like, no, their BMI is like, no, getting increased, then it is like, it raises some concerns. And all patients who are started on DTG should be counseled about healthy diet, regular exercise to maintain their weights. Now we will discuss about the drug-drug interactions. And
Dr. Reshu, actually,
yes.
NRI AP want to ask something.
Sure.
Yeah.
Madam, you are telling about the weight gain also, but what about the peripheral wasting and the facial muscles wasting and buffalomes? And this previously we got that one. Now this drug also got the same thing. Some of the people they are using in YRG and they are coming to us. Some of the people they are telling ladies particularly about the facial muscle wasting, their depressions on buccal muscles. So what to do? Buffalomes are common.
So right now, I think we do not have too much documented about the muscular wasting in the literature. So what I listed are the common side effects which have been reported. And we do not know, because in our country, we do not have any experience with DTG in the national program. So we do not know how our population is going to respond to DTG. We will have to wait for that. And that's why they are not included in the common list of side effects. But if there are specific cases, then they have to be managed accordingly. But I think for our population, we will have to wait for the data.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, please.
Thank you, sir. So coming to the drug-drug interactions, I think I'll just deal with the common ones. So if the patient is a diabetic and is on metformin-based anti-diabetic treatment, then the dose for metformin should not increase more than 1 gram per day. Usually, like, no, I mean, the dose for metformin is usually 2 grams per day in most of the patients. But with DTG, it should not increase more than 1 gram per day. And the reason for that is like DTG actually increases the bioavailability of metformin in the blood. And then, like, no, it's very important to monitor the glycemic control. Person should have a optimal glycemic control. Then also, like, there are contraindications with polyvalent cations such as aluminium, calcium, iron, magnesium, and zinc. And one must remember that most of these cations are present in the antacids or multivitamins or supplements, which are usually prescribed to the patients, or at times patients might be taking on their own. So whenever, like, we are prescribing DTG to the patients, we should ask them, like, if they are taking some other drugs also, so that history taking of the drugs is very important. And if they are taking any such drug, we should advise them to use DTG either 2 hours before or after 6 hours. Then if they are on TB treatment, especially rifampicin based TB treatment, then the dosage for DTG has to be BD dose. DTG 50 mg twice a day has to be given. And I must clarify here, it is not 100 mg at one go, it is 50 mg BD dose. It has to be given twice a day at different time, either like one dose in morning and 1 dose in evening. And again, DTG decreases the rifampicin decreases the bioavailability of DTG, and that's why an additional dose of DTG is needed. Otherwise, the other option would be to substitute rifampicin with rifabutine if that is available, but I think that also has its own limitation, we know from our experience. So now I will be discussing about how NACO is planning to introduce DTG into the national program, into our ARV regimen. And so this is some part has been introduced as phase 1 transition plan, and some of these things would be coming in future. So you will be getting OMs from NACO, like for which patients DTG is to be used. And whenever you get these OMs from NACO, then only you have to start using DTG for that particular group of patients. Unless you receive that OM from NACO, you are not supposed to be using DTG for all patients. So that is something you should be, like, mindful of. And I am just discussing these slides because you should know, like, what is the broader plan of NACO to adopt or implement DTG in the national program, so that the sites and as medical officers or the staff at the ART centers, you are comparatively well prepared and know, like, what is coming in the next few months. I mean, the entire transition might take a year or more than that also. So coming to the transition of DT-based regimen, so this would be basically all patients who are more than 20 kg of weight or more than 6 years of age would be eligible for DTG based regimen. So I think that is the broader principle, like above 20 kg weight and above 6 years of age, DTG can be used, and it has to be used obviously in different combinations of other ARV drugs which are permitted for that age. So for like for the PLHIV who are more than 10 years of age, we can use with tenofovir. But if they are not 10 years of age, then you cannot use tenofovir. So we have to go for alternate regimen, maybe a abacavir. Going forward, DTG-based regimen will be the preferred regimen in the national program for all the new patients as well as all the patients who are already on ART. So there would be a plan to transition the existing patients also. Selection of appropriate DTG-based regimen would depend on the viral load suppression status of the patients and on the current drug they are on. Based on that, the transition would be done, and you will get a full guidance about that. Then this transition, whatever I'm discussing, will be done in a phased manner. And as I said, this might take time, almost a year. for the entire transition to happen, or maybe more than a year. So everything is not immediate. NACO would be issuing the orders and you have to wait for those orders. So these slides are more for your information. So what is planned as the upcoming guidelines for the first line? So for the first line, TLD, tenofovir, lamivudine and DTG would be the recommended regimen or the preferred regimen for all PLHIV if they are more than 10 years of age or more than 30 kg of weight. And this includes HIV-1 patient, HIV-2 patients, as well as HIV-1 and HIV-2 patients. So because as I was saying, it helps to simplify the regimen. So you can use it like for all patients, even the women who are exposed to nevirapine in the past, or the patients who are co-infected with TB or hepatitis B or C, you can use DTG for these patients. So this actually simplifies our first line regimen. So for all patients, TLD would be our preferred regimen. But obviously, as I said earlier, the women of childbearing age or potential should be given an informed choice about the benefits and risks about the use of DTG, and then only they should be initiated based on their choice. So in case, if the body weight is less than 30 kg, we cannot give TLD, and that's where we will need a alternate regimen, and that alternate regimen would be abacavir, lamivudine with DTG. If the patients are having high serum creatinine values, then you do a serum creatinine clearance, and based on that, if you start the patient on abacavir based regimen, lamivudine has to be based on the creatinine clearance, and then DTG has to be given. For the patients who are on anti-TB treatment with rifampicin, they have to be given an additional dose of DTG. So as I told you that the dose of or DTG has to be a BD dose. So TLD will have 50 mg of DTG, and then you give additional 50 mg of DTG at the other time. So if the patient is taking TLD tablet in evening, then the separate DTG tablet has to be given in morning. And females with reproductive age group who do not wish to be on TLD or on a DTG based regimen, for them, like the preferable regimen to start would be TLE. Now we will discuss about the second line regimen. So for second line, if the patient is failing on zidovudine containing regimen with an NRTI or a PI based first line, for them, their second line would be TLD. So if a patient is failing on, say, ZLE or ZL lopinavir ritonavir, ZL atazanavir ritonavir, their preferred regimen would be TLD. If a patient is failing on tenofovir or abacavir containing regimen, their preferred, and with an NRTI or a PI based regimen, their preferred regimen would be ZLD. And in case if the hemoglobin is less than 9%, and if AZT cannot be given to these patients, then they would be given lopinavir ritonavir if they are on an NRTI, and duronavir ritonavir if they are failing on a PI based regimen. And then, like in future, we might have some patients who will be failing on DTG based regimen also. So if they are failing on TLD, their preferred regimen would be ZL atazanavir ritonavir. If they are failing on AZT on ZLD, then their preferred regimen would be TL with atazanavir ritonavir. Then if there are patients who are failing, who are exposed to multiple NRTIs, and then they are failing, so for them the regimen would be duronavir plus lopinavir ritonavir. Sorry, DTG plus lopinavir ritonavir. If these patients who are multiple NRTI based are exposed to multiple NRTI, and they are on a PI based regimen, and then if they fail, they would be given DTG with duronavir ritonavir. So these two rows basically, these are the guidelines which are being implemented as phase 1 transition. So all patients who are exposed to multiple NRTI and are failing, they are to be put on a DTG based regimen. If they are failing to a NRTI based regimen, If they are failing on efavirenz or nevirapine, then they will be given lopinavir ritonavir with DTG. And if they are failing on PI based regimen, then they have to be given dodonavir ritonavir along with DTG. And the dose for DTG, if the patients are co-infected with TB, it has to be a BD dose, and BD dose has to be continued till the duration of TB treatment. Once the TB treatment is stopped, then the additional dose of DTG has to be stopped. And the patients who are co-infected with Hep B will receive an additional tenofovir lamivudine tablet if they are already not receiving, because TL would have a benefit on their hepatitis B. Coming to the third line, so there is no much change in the third line. Basically, what we were using a integrase inhibitor already in third line, which was RAL, but now going forward, we will not be using RAL in third line. So RAL will be replaced by dolutegravir. Right? And the third line ART would be started by ART centers after receiving advice from the SACEP of the respective select linked ART plus centers or the centers of excellence. So they have to send their case to the SACEPs of the ART plus centers or centers of excellence, and then they can be advised for the change in the regimen. So RAL would be basically replaced by DTG. And DTG will be used in OD dose if the drug has never been used in first line or second line. But if it has been used, then it has to be, it would be a twice daily. So for now, most of the patients, if we will discuss that later maybe. And any PLHIV co-infected with hepatitis B will receive additional TL if not already receiving. This is same as we discussed in the last slide. For children also, so if the children, as I told you in my previous slides also, if the children are below 6 years of age, if they are below 6 years of age, then obviously, or less than 20 kg of weight, then DTG is not recommended. They would be on a lopinavir ritonavir based regimen. If they are between 6 to 10 years of age and 20 to 30 kg of weight, then they can be given DTG, but with abacavir lamivudine. And if they are more than 30 kg and more than 10 years in age, they can be given tenofovir lamivudine and TLD, as we talked about for the adults. So this would be, TLD would be harmonized with the adult regimen. This is the same thing which is presented in the graphical presentation. So if the child is co-infected with TB, then what do we do? So for the children who are less than 20 kg or less than 6 years of age, with abacavir, lamivudine and lopinavir ritonavir, we do a super boosting of ritonavir. If the child is between 20 kg of age and 6 to 10 years of 20 to 30 kg of weight and 6 to 10 years of age, then we can use DTG for them, and the dose of DTG again would be here BD dose. And obviously, if they are more than 30 kg and more than 10 years, then tenofovir lamivudine DTG will be used, and an additional tablet of DTG 50 mg has to be given after 12 hours. So, are there any questions for this section?
Ajit, please could you see if there are any raised hands? Actually, I'm not able to see the entire screen because I don't have the host facility.
No, there is.
Now, there is one question. There is one question from GGH Tirupati AP.
Sure.
That is, DTG is effective against hepatitis B. They have written in the chart.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, DTG is effective against hepatitis B.
Okay.
And that is also one of the reasons to include DTG in the national program, because for TB comorbidity as well as for hepatitis, DTG can be used. So we are simplifying our regimen.
Please carry on.
So we will discuss the phase 1 transition plan, about which most of you would have received the office memorandum from NACO on 4th April. Are there any ART centers who have not received this OM? I hope not. Right? So, so as per phase 1 transition plan, all patients who are currently on RAL based regimen are to be shifted or transition to a DTG based regimen. This I already told you when we were talking about third line ART. So all patients who are on RAL would be shifted to DTG based regimen in phase 1. Also the patients who need to be switched to third line ART or alternate second line ART. So the patients who are failing on second line, or the patients who are NRTI, multiple NRTI exposed patients who need an alternate second line, for them the preferred integrase inhibitor would be DTG instead of RAL. So how these guidelines would look like now? So if a patient who is on RAL plus lopinavir ritonavir currently, if they, so what they will be given? First, their viral load test has to be done. If they are suppressed virologically, then they have to be given DTG instead of RAL. Lopinavir ritonavir will remain as such, and DTG has to be given in a OD dose. If the patient is unsuppressed or has failed on a RAL based current regimen, then they would be given duronavir ritonavir BD with DTG BD. And the patients who fail on an integrase inhibitor would be given a BD dose of DTG. So I think there are two circumstances in which a BD dose of DTG would be needed. One, if the patient is on a rifampicin based TB treatment. Secondly, if the patient is failing on a integrase inhibitor, then a BD dose of DTG is needed. Then you will have another scenario when the patients are on third line ART, they are on RAL plus duronavir ritonavir. So if these patients, if they are suppressed virally, then you just change RAL into DTG OD, and they would be continued with duronavir ritonavir. So the regimen would be duronavir ritonavir plus DTG 50 mg OD. If these patients are unsuppressed, then they would be given duronavir ritonavir BD with DTG VD dose. Again, the principle would be because they have failed on RAL. Then for the phase 1, all the patients who are exposed to multiple NRTIs and they are failing on their first line, then for them the second line would be a DTG based alternate second line, which would be lopinavir ritonavir BD dose with DTG 50 mg OD. If the patient has failed second line failure with 2 NRTIs and failed on a PI, then also they would be given duronavir ritonavir with BD dose with 50 mg OD dose of DTG. And NACO has given a bit of flexibility in the current scenario, because in most places, in fact, because of the COVID-19, viral load testing is at a halt. And in this circumstance, if the viral load is not, current viral load cannot be done, then you can actually consider whatever the latest viral load is available on the current regimen. That can be considered for making a decision. In terms of follow-up and monitoring, it remains same whatever we were doing earlier. So whatever is the monitoring for second line and third line patient, there is no change in that monitoring. So some important points for the ART centers to remember, that this transition, phase 1 transition of DTG would be done after the RAL stocks have been utilized. So if you already have RAL in your ART centers, in your COEs, you have to use that first and then only shift your patients to DTG based regimen. For HIV TB co-infected patients, we already discussed that the dosage has to be a BD dose for the time when they are on TB treatment, on a rifampicin based TB treatment, and it has to be stopped once the TB treatment is completed. again, in children who are more than 20 years of weight or who are more than 6 years of age, they can be given DTG instead of RAL based regimen. So if they fall into like in either of the categories, or they were already on RAL based regimen, but if they are more than 6 years and more than 20 kg of weight, they can be shifted to a DTG based regimen. Then viral load testing, how the decision would be taken based on the viral load testing. So if the patient is already on ART, and for your phase 1 transition, all your patients would be already on ART. So you have to do a viral load test of these patients. And if they are suppressed, then we discuss the regimen of how they are to be like transitioned. If they are unsuppressed, in that case, you do not do an immediate transition. Ideally, you do enhanced adherence counseling or step-up counseling of these patients for 3 months and ensure that their adherence is more than 95%. And then you do a repeat viral load test. Based on that test, even after 3 sessions of step-up counseling and having an adherence of more than 95%, even then if the patient is unsuppressed, then you will treat that patient, consider that patient to be unsuppressed or failing on the current regimen, and take decision based on the table which we discussed in the last 2 slides. But again, because viral load testing may not be available, so for now you can do the transition based on the latest viral load available in the last 6 months, but on the current regimen. For the counselors, it is very important, and I think I touched base on the issue of the risk and benefits of DTG in women of childbearing age. So that piece is very important. So counselors have to, as I said earlier, they have to inform about the risk and benefits of DTG to all women of reproductive age when they are doing this transition. Right? And at the back of your mind, I think it's important for the healthcare providers to understand that comparatively, the studies or the modelings which have been done by WHO, they show that the benefits comparatively, they outweigh the risk of DTG in women of childbearing age. Right? And as far as possible, try to link all these women, if they are not wanting to be pregnant, to a family planning services. They should be ideally on effective contraception, but even if they are not, but if they are fully informed and they are okay to be started on DTG, they can be started. Okay. And so, yes, and then I think because this would be a new drug, so counselors also need to counsel the patient, especially when you're doing the transitioning. Like from RAL, if the patient is doing well on RAL and if the patient is suppressed on RAL, then the patients would ask you no, why am I being shifted to this new regime drug, new drug or this new ARV? Then you have to actually counsel them whenever you are making these changes in their regimen, that what are the benefits of DTG, what are the benefits. It suppresses the viral load very quickly, it has high genetic barrier, it is well tolerated. So all those messages have to be given to the patients, because at times patients they get very touchy with their medicines and they think no, if I was doing well on that medicine, why am I unnecessarily being changed to a new drug? So it is very important that whenever you are making these kind of substitution or switch, whenever the regimen is being changed for any reason, patient has to be counseled about the reasons and also the benefits of DTG. So that is applicable for all the patients. But if there are women of childbearing potential, then you have to inform them about the risk and benefits of DTG, especially the neural tube defects. In terms of capacity building, I think NACO has been trying hard to reach all the ART centers, all the ART center staff through various platforms, and this training is also part of that initiative only. And since we cannot have classroom trainings right now, so we are sort of trying to reach all participants virtually as often as we can, and try to hear the queries from the field and try to resolve them. And once I think the situation gets better, a one-day training will be developed, module will be developed for all the staff also. And NACO will be uploading all the training materials and everything on the NACO website, that which you can refer. Also, NACO is developing some job aids or the ready reference material, counseling material for the healthcare providers, which will soon be disseminated to all the ART centers and would also be posted on the NACO website. In terms of recording reporting, I just want to tell you, like, no, in the white, sorry.
1 second, Reshu, we are actually running out of time. How many more slides would you have?
Just 2 slides.
Okay, thank you so much. Sorry.
Okay, so in terms of recording and reporting, basically it is very important in section 6 to document the reason for the change of regimen. So you have these 2 sections in white card, substitute or switch. So if the patient is suppressed and you are just substituting the drug, then you have to mention other reasons and specify that it is transitioning to DTG under national program. If the patient is unsuppressed and you're switching the patient, then obviously you have to mention the reason as virological failure. So, but it is very important for your future references. Please document the reason, especially for the substitutes. That is not done at many a times, then, because otherwise at a later stage, after 6 months, you will not remember why that shifting was done, or maybe after 2 years, and then, like, no, when these patients are, you have to see the other future options for drugs for these patients, then, like, it's very difficult to make out anything. So this documentation is very important. And similarly, that has to be done in the green book also of the patients. So I think we are done with the slides. If there are any questions.
So thank you very much, Dr. Reshu. That was an excellent talk, and it was a very, very essential talk, because we all know that we do not have experience of integrase inhibitors in the first line as of now. And just to summarize the talk before, just a few relevant points. It was a very, very complete talk. So I will obviously not be talking about each and every slide, but the relevant points I'll be telling you before I open the discussion for the house. So firstly, dolutegravir is an integrase inhibitor, which the program is planning to use in the first line now in place of efavirenz, in place of the NNRTI. It is such a beautiful drug that it can practically used in all populations. It can be used for people who have HIV-2, people who get rifampicin and ATT. You can use it for hepatitis B because it has effectivity against hepatitis B. It has hardly any drug interactions. Like earlier, we remember we could not give fluconazole, we could not give X, we could not buy with some of our drugs. So it has got very less drug interactions. For that matter, even with the new drug bedaquiline, dolutegravir doesn't have any interaction. So it's very, very easy to use bedaquiline with dolutegravir. The only tricky part that is there of dolutegravir is that its possible potential to cause neural tube defects, and that is basically limited to the first 3 months of pregnancy. So it could be an issue when we use it for women who have a potential of getting pregnant. So in such women, we would have to counsel them and tell them, see, this can be an issue if you get pregnant accidentally or you plan a pregnancy. And in such a case, then what is to be done? Whether you would like, if it's a planned pregnancy, then you can obviously give the option to the patient that if she wants to plan a pregnancy, maybe that time for the initial part, she might not take dolutegravir. But in case of an accidental pregnancy, as Dr. Reshu said, by the time they will even discover that they are pregnant, it is quite possible that the first 3 months might have already gone of the pregnancy. The first trimester might have gone. So switching after the first trimester is not going to really make any difference. But the point remains that a woman has to be informed. She has to be informed, and taking dolutegravir in a young woman has to be an informed choice. You have to tell her about its potential risk to the child, and only then when the woman gives consent can you give it to this woman. Now, the other beauty of dolutegravir is that not only is it useful in practically all populations, it has a faster and a better viral load suppression. It has minimal side effects, so lesser discontinuation, and it has a very high barrier to genetic resistance. There is hardly any resistance known to dolutegravir except in cases where it was used in a very treatment experienced patient. And few side effects like insomnia, headache, dizziness, and it can be safely given. And but in the phasing, it is there that first we have to utilize our raltegravir, and only after that we have to give our dolutegravir. And when we are introducing dolutegravir and we are replacing some people's first line or maybe second line with dolutegravir, do not forget to write in the recording and reporting forms that why this patient was switched. Because if you do not write why this patient was switched from A to B or from A to dolutegravir, how will you preserve the future options? How will you decide the future options for this patient? So this was a very, very excellent and needed talk. And this is a very, very small summary that I have given of the talk. And I am now opening the discussion to the house. And I would really request you to ask questions from Dr. Reshu and to avail this opportunity of talking to her.
Hello.
Hello. Yes. Enter Bangalore, please.
Madam, thank you. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I have a question is that a patient who is on rifampicin based ATT, you told that immediately he will be shifted to OD dose. Is it immediately? It is the BD dose. BD dose, when the patient is on ATT, you are giving BD dose. After completion of ATT, the rifampicin, you are going to shift to the OD dose. Am I right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Am I right? Now the question is, the level of rifampicin will be there for 2 weeks. The concentration of the rifampicin will be there even up to 2 weeks also. Probably you have to think, rather than immediately shifting the DTG to OD dose, for another 2 weeks you have to continue after completion of ATT, rifampicin base. That is my comment. Am I clear?
Yeah, thank you, sir, for this comment. And I think that's something which is advisable to wait for 2 weeks and then you shift the patient back to OD dose. But since like most of the guidelines have not in black and white mentioned this, so that's where it is not like documented in the NACO guidelines right now. But yeah, practically speaking, that is something advisable to change the drug after 2 weeks. But also the other thing would be like, the rifampicin levels would be going down on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So that's why, because I mean, we searched literature on this a lot, but since nothing was written in black and white in any of the guidelines, we could not make a recommendation of that sort.
Okay, thank you.
Sudhir would like to add to the discussion. Dr. Sudhir?
There, I have seen that question regarding from, I think from Meerut it was, that a case scenario, Dr. Upasana has somewhat, I think, explained it. But my only addition is like, if a couple is there and they are like keeping this fully on you, that, sir, you decide whatever regime you will say, I will take blindly. So in that case, you can say like this dolutegravir based regime is best for you in relation to suppression of viral load, in relation to prevention of transmission from mother to baby, in relation to lesser side effects and better tolerability. So these things has to be explained again after this like that, and then you can give them option like it will be better if you can start TLD as of now, and if you are in future, if you want to take want to keep pregnancy, just inform us before that, and then we can again discuss whether if you want to keep pregnancy, and then at the time you want to change the TLD or to continue TLD. At that time we will discuss. As of now, there is no need to discuss. It will help you to keep the virus load such a low level that your virus will not be transmitted to the baby. So that will, I think, serve the purpose. They will consult. They will be like understood. Like TLD will be more helpful.
Thank you, Dr. Sudhir. That was actually a very important point. Any other? Yes, Gudur, you want to ask something? AP Gudur? No? Is there a question from someone?
Yeah. Hello.
Can I hear someone saying a hello?
Yes,
ma'am. Recent viral load is needed in every patient because viral load is a very difficult situation in this condition. So how we can manage this situation
Yes.
for case of the dolutegravir?
So ideally, viral load is needed in all conditions. That is an ideal condition. So NACO is very much aware of the current conditions when viral load is not available in most of the facilities. And that's why, the OM which has been issued by NACO says that in the COVID scenario that there is sort of a flexibility or a waiver where you cannot have a viral load done. You can use like whatever viral load readings you have from past 6 months. But that viral load should be on the current regimen. So at times what happens, if the patient is on RAL for 6 months and the viral load was done on a previous regimen.
Yeah.
So in that case, you might not have a viral load done on the current regimen, but whatever viral load is available on the current regimen, that can be considered. If it is good if it has been done in 6 months. If that has not been done, I think in some places the viral load is still available, so you can prioritize those patients for viral load. But otherwise, you can consider viral load reading which is available in the past 6 months to make a decision. And whenever viral load situation is sort of revived and the testing is available, then you can after 3 months of treatment or 2 months of treatment, in fact, you can do a viral load testing for these kind of patients.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
That was also a very, very important question. Actually, most of the services have suffered a setback in this COVID time, and we really don't know till when we will have to face these times. Any other questions, please? Any other question about dolutegravir and rifampicin or ATT? I see any questions? So are we through? Dr. Reshu, would you like to give some final comments before we do the poll?
No, I think I've already spoken a lot, but obviously, and Dr. Upasana also summarizes very well that obviously DTG is a very effective, very efficacious drug, and right now, I think it is one of the best ARV drugs which we have, and we can use it with in different combinations. So we should have confidence in this drug. That's one, because we will be shifting our existing patients to this new regimen. So unless we have that confidence, it will be really difficult to convince our patients and counsel them properly. Why are they being shifted or transitioned to a new regimen? That is very important. And secondly, whatever plan we discuss, it would be implemented in a phased manner. So everything will not be applicable from today. You have to wait for the office memorandum from NACO. So only right now, it is applicable only for third line patients and the patients who need alternate second line. So that is the bottom line for the phase 1 transition plan. So we have to just limit our use of DTG for these patients only currently. So this is very important. And then also there are concerns about how to use DTG in women of childbearing age, but Dr. Sudhir, I think he explained it very beautifully that we have to give them an informed choice, especially if they are wanting to be pregnant. So this is very important, and we don't want to deny the benefits. We know that the benefits of DTG are comparatively much higher than the potential risk which we are envisaging. And tomorrow we might have updated data coming in and giving us more light on the evidence of neural tube defect also. So it is very important that we do a very fair counseling of the patients and not terrify them of DTG, because it happens at times because it is there in our back of mind that it's not a good drug for women. So if you do the counseling with that kind of a back-end information, then obviously you are not doing a fair job. You are not giving a fair chance to women to decide, and you might be denying in a way you're denying the benefits of DTG to a women. So it has to be done in a very balanced manner. That would be my request to all of you, and not please don't block your heads beforehand only that it's not a good drug for women.
Thank you.
Because I remember, Dr. Upasana, you were telling me about an example for beta-choline counseling and how it was done, and it really can you quote that again? That would be really helpful for people.
I actually can't remember what you know.
It's the way you counsel the patient. So I remember that you said ki, like, no, if you take bedaquiline, you will have like no risk of developing heart ailments. And if you do like this kind of a counseling and not like tell about the benefits, obviously you are not doing a fair job. So it has to be a very justified job. You have to do a very balanced counseling.
That is very true. The counselor's job, like sometimes you really see that patients, even with the simple first lines, they come back and say, oh, I can't take it because your counselor told me I can have side effects. So then you have to understand that the counselor should first have emphasized the benefit, or maybe the counselor did. I'm not saying the counselor did not, but maybe the person took away the message, only the message that the person took away was that it has got side effects. So as Dr. Reshu is pointing out, please emphasize on the benefits and then also inform them about the side effects. So the weight has to be on the benefits rather than on the side effects. Having said that, it doesn't mean you do not tell the side effects. So as I see, we are already over time. Any small burning comment from Dr. Sudhir before we wind up?
Yeah, just to add this, you should have, first of all, we should have faith on the drug. We should not be preoccupied like the drug is having neurological defect. I myself, if afraid of the drug being prescribed, then I may be counseled by the patient. Instead of counseling the patient, I will be counseled by the patient. So we should have faith in the drug. And you might be remember that at the time when we introduced deformation program at a larger scale, when TLE was introduced, at that time there were concerns like neural tube defect with deformation also. But when we introduced it in a larger scale, there were so many patients, those who were exposed to deformation, then this has known, then we know that deformation is safer. It is safer ARV drug. There is no issue of neural tube defect at all. And second thing is, we don't know how the neural tube defect, whatever is reported with dolutegravir based regime, whether they were having folic acid were prescribed or not at the time of conception. We also don't know about that. Is it because of only the folic acid deficiency lead to neural tube defect, or it was due to dolutegravir? So that evidence will come up. It will be like only later stage we will be having these evidences. So don't get panic. Don't afraid of dolutegravir. It is very good drug. It will really help us in achieving our targets and maintaining patient's health. So that should be kept in our mind.
So with these, thank you, Dr. Sudhir. So with these words, I hand over the mic to Dr. Vandana. Please, could you get the post-test and give the answers to the post-test?
Thank you, ma'am. So here on the screen, we are having the post-test. Same two questions are there. And I think everything has been very beautifully explained by Dr. Reshu. So we should get 100% correct findings and results of these two polls. So we will just have 30 seconds so that we all can do this, and then we can discuss these two questions.
I can see only 16 people have done the post test out of 27. Please do your post test. Apna post test kar lijiye. I think, Vandana, we are not moving ahead from 16. So maybe some people have either left in between. So could you please discuss the post test?
Yeah, as the first question says that why DTG is being adopted under national program. So Dr. Reshu in her presentation specifically mentioned all the good effects of it, why we have supported this drug. So all the three answers, all three options over here, that is, it supports the rapid viral suppression than efavirenz is true. It has also shown fewer toxicities and side effects than the other drug, and then it is having a high genetic barrier to resistance. So all these three are the good effects of the DTG. That's why NACO has adopted this drug in the national program. The second question says that what is the correct dosage of dolutegravir in HIV/TB co-infected patients? So again, this has been explained that if the patient is on rifampicin-based ATT, then we have to give patient 50 milligram twice daily DTG. Otherwise, this is 50 milligram OD, we all know. We can see only one person has selected, that is, it is the same dosage. So we again repeat, it is 50 milligram twice daily if the patient is on rifampicin based ATT. So with this, we have completed the poll also.
So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks again, Dr. Reshu, Dr. Sudhir, Vandana, Ajit, Gaurav, and all the participants who made it together, who made it today despite all the adverse events and happenings that are happening around us in the medical world. So with that, I would like to close this session. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Take
so
care.
much. Thanks.
Take
Dr.
care.
Upasana. Thanks so
Stay
much.
safe. Stay safe, please. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Stay safe.